GNC is actively testing on TikTok Shop and actually seen pretty good success over the last couple months. There was a product, a women's stress Vita packs, and kind of like a 30-day supply, have a little packet of like, here are all of the supplements and pills to take. Um, and it went, viral,
Mhm.
and we sold out of all of our inventory in 3 days.
How can you win in subscription retail? Hello and welcome to Growth Masterminds, the podcast for growth marketers. My name is John Koetsier. I'm super pumped to do this episode because I have a real all-star guest. She's currently VP of e-commerce for GNC. That's almost 100 years old. I checked, or I think they're founded in 1930 or 1932 or something like that, and it's 2024. They're in fitness and health. If you don't know, I mean, they have 2,300 stores in the US, presence in over 50 countries, so they're massive. Before that, she was head of marketing for direct to consumer for Clorox. You've heard of Clorox. They've made like 50 things in your house. And she has a long history of marketing leadership for companies like Plated, Retail Me Not, more. She's been honored as an influential leader by Adweek, being recognized as an Adweek 50 recipient. Her name is Vivian Chang. Welcome, Vivian.
Hi, John. I'm so happy to be here and to get to chat with you actually again.
Again, exactly.
Yeah.
We did Mobile Heroes way back in the day during the pandemic, probably. I can't believe you're here chatting with me right now. I mean, Black Friday, Cyber Monday are just around the corner. You must be going nuts.
Yeah, definitely a busy time. I think it's one of those, in the years post pandemic, it's been what is the consumer sentiment? What is the shopping behavior going to be? All signs point to this will be one of the biggest holiday shopping periods yet. So we're definitely gearing up at GNC, both for the e-com experiences and also in the stores, because we think that there's going to be a lot of foot traffic out this weekend also.
It's super interesting you say that all signs point to that because I just got pitched by Adobe for a story I'll probably do for Forbes, which is that so far sales are up 10% versus last year, and the trend is ramping as we go towards Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So that's super interesting. And before we dive into all the subscription stuff, we're going to talk about subscription retail. We're going to talk about it from the retailer side, from consumer side. We're going to talk about key growth levers. We'll chat about key channels, what's working, what's not, maybe even some creative, maybe even some hidden keys to success, stuff like that. Before we get into that, I have to give you props because in our first conversation, we chatted about something. You used a phrase that I have shamelessly stolen and used probably, I got to say it's like 20 times in different webinars and podcasts and stuff like that. The phrase is surround sound marketing. And just maybe for the benefit of those who maybe haven't listened to our first conversation, what the heck is that?
Yeah. I love that you have taken it and run with it. You're more than welcome to continue on because I do really fundamentally believe that it is our role as marketers to surround the right consumer with the surround sound marketing. And so it initially is one, making sure that there are multiple touch points hitting the same person, the correct iterations of message, and that it's all in sync and that it makes cohesive sense together, right? And so I think when we were talking about it, we actually did a lot of testing that certain frequency, certain number of impressions is what you need to actually drive action. And so it's this idea of being this surround sound echo chamber for the consumer.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And I love it. And it's funny. I just had a thought. I mean, like I gave you the intro and you have a great role and you've had significant roles in the past. And a lot of them, I like 15 LinkedIn experiences, but you're still like 24. How's that possible?
I'm a heavy user of all the D2C beauty brands. So clearly it's working.
Multiple clones. We're doing different jobs at the same time. Okay, let's dive into subscription retail. Give me an overview of the space. As we chatted initially, you said it's messy.
Yeah. I think it's because really, you had your call it D2C, pure subscription businesses. I was at Plated in meal kits for a while. So in a way, that's a subscription where you get a physical product and that's the only way you can get it, right? There's no, I want one box this week and not the next week, because the business model doesn't work if you do it that way. Well, now you have CPG brands, retailers like us who are also moving into subscription. Amazon obviously has really paved the way with Subscribe to Save, making it so easy to say, okay, like I don't want to think about it. Every month, my pack of
Hmm.
paper towels and toilet paper is going to show up. Except now, actually, I just personally subscribe to Olipop. So now I have canned sodas coming to my house on a subscription basis. And so it really has diversified in terms of all of the different types of products you can subscribe to. I think it's consumers' continued search for convenience, right? To not have to put in the legwork to go get a product, or I already know I like this, so I might as well save a little bit of money. But I think where it's messy is one, all of us lose track even of how many different streaming services we're subscribed to. Now we're getting to physical products that are showing up at the house, that I lost track of and forgot about. And so there is a sense of overwhelm. And so I think you have to play that line with consumers of what is offering convenience without being annoying, and then
Hmm.
make it really easy to adjust, to pause, to swap out flavors and all of those things that can sometimes be complex operationally to execute as a brand.
You will never believe the subscription service that I got pitched on just literally this morning. I forget the name of it, but it's a subscription service that does nothing but take your trash cans, your garbage cans from your front porch to the street. That's what they do. That is the job. They're the Uber of trash, is what they said. I will probably write about them just because they're so incredibly silly. But I mean, wow,
Yeah.
subscriptions and
Yeah.
everything.
It's really in everything now. And, I think it's attractive, right? From the financial perspective of recurring revenue. And for so long, a lot of brands were valued on that, ARR number. And so I think part of it has been there's a push from the investment community finance side. And then
Mhm,
there is the consumer demand. I say we're probably a little out of whack on, those things
mhm.
equaling each other. But I think the onus is on the brand for making being innovative on what are those things that you can offer that is adding true value.
And I think that's really the key there, right? Because everybody who's in on the corporate side wants to have subscription revenue. Of course, you want to have some sort of revenue certainty. You want to reduce your CAC, your customer acquisition cost, by having a customer that extends over time. It's wonderful. Not everything works for that, right? I mean, you've got supplements. That makes a ton of sense. I need those supplements every single month. I'm going to get my creatine. I'm going to get my protein powder, my drinks, my mixes, my vitamins, stuff like that, right? That's a pure consumable, and it needs to be replaced every time. I shave my head, and so I get all these people who are saying, buy this head shaving electric thing, and then you're on a subscription plan for new razors. And I'm like, well, the shaver that I used like a decade ago, I didn't need a subscription plan to shave my head. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yes.
I I want to talk about key growth levers. Obviously, product is in there. Obviously, already mentioned pricing. If you're in subscription retail, what are some of the key growth levers that you can pull?
Yeah. I think the pricing and promotions is a really big one, right? That is oftentimes what gets someone over the hurdle to sign up initially. Or Amazon offers you by default 5 or 15% for your first subscription, and then change over time. And so I think the consumers have been trained in some ways of that. I think the other pieces though are newness. So you subscribe and you can get the newest flavor of protein powder
Hmm.
or something like that, right? So it's almost like opting into an exclusive club
Right.
as a way of showing brand love, I think, as one. I think there are free shipping, right? It is a promotion, but oftentimes that's also used by retailers as another piece of it. Um, I think also uh, being able to opt in. And so at first space, we kind of had the loyalty club
Hmm.
and the really loyal first bees lovers could help us vote on what next new product might come out. And they can have exclusive access to it. So I think the exclusivity, really identifying with a brand and putting the dollars where you are there, is a piece of it as well.
I really like
What else
that.
are
I
you
like
saying? I think like there's a lot of
yes.
levers in this world.
Exactly. I really like that. I mean, I think the newness is really cool. It reminds me of like Apple's subscription plan for iPhones, right? You get a new one. I believe it's every year. You get the latest one, or maybe it's every 2 years, but you get the latest pretty much. And I like that there can be more to it than just the product relationship, especially for your fans. That makes a ton of sense. Absolutely. What are some of your key channels? I mean, I'm assuming some of the usual suspects are there as well, and the Googles and the Metas and stuff like that. What are some of the key channels that are working really well for you right now?
Yeah. So I think what we're trying to figure out as a business is there's a lot of media and there's a lot of channels like what you just said. So affiliate is really big, influencers, from micro to larger, search, meta ads, TikTok ads, all of those display actually,
Mhm.
for very contextually relevant audiences, TV, video streaming. But most of those efforts, I would say, are focused on just getting someone into the brand.
Yep.
Or maybe it's here's our catalog of products and your dynamic product ads bringing someone in. What we're trying to figure out is how do you make the acquisition to subscription jump smaller? Right. So at the point of someone coming in, can we actually sell them right into subscription? So that's something we're very early days on and trying to test. Because what we do see, not surprisingly in our world is after about 2 to 3 purchases of an item, someone's happy to
Mhm.
move into subscription. I already know I
Mm.
love this product. It's working. I like the flavor. Why do I have to remember to buy it every 30 days? Um, that makes sense. But I think as we tweak the subscription options, can we get someone to sign up from the get go, but still offer the flexibility? Hey, if you don't like this flavor, you can swap flavors every. Or maybe
Nice.
you're not consuming something in 30 days. And so make it really easy to change it to 45, 60, 90. And so it's kind of like you have a standing subscription, but very customizable with it.
That's super interesting. And one of the things that I've heard recently from a marketer was super interesting. I wonder if it's relevant here. And this marketer was for mobile games, but they had totally separate ad campaigns for people that they were bringing on board who were going to be monetized by ads, and people who are going to be monetized by in-app purchases or subscriptions to like game passes or something like that. They had extremely different advertising, creative, messaging, offers, and even funnels for those two groups. And I don't know if people crossed over or didn't or not or anything like that. And I wonder if maybe that's something that works for retail subscription as well, because there's a certain person who wants the subscription. And there's a certain person maybe who is never going to buy a subscription. They're going to buy from you every 2 months or every month on your website or in your store, but they're never going to sign up, give you your credit card and say, send me something every 45 days. Does that
Yeah.
resonate? Does that make any sense or is that insane?
So I think as we're talking about it, it sounds really interesting because we do a lot of testing for different reasons to believe in ads, right? And so on the front end of ads, we're going to have different target audiences, but also different use cases, right? I think I've heard a good example for shampoo. Is it for hair loss? Is it help keep your curls? Is it because
It's
you want
definitely curls
shinier
for me.
hair, right? Like grow hair, right? Like, you know, uh, but you can easily use different influencers or creative messaging to have consumers self-select into those groups. And so why not do the same almost with the business model? And it's
Hmm.
kind of like a choose your own adventure as someone responds to the ad, then having that full landing page flow and everything follow onto it, pay that out. I think that's a
Mhm.
really interesting way to segment in a kind of atypical way.
Yeah, yeah. I want to ask you about on platform commerce. And what I'm talking about there is like TikTok shop and Facebook shops and stuff like that. It's super interesting, right? I mean, there's a lot of drivers going on here, right? For platforms, obviously they want to have people on them longer, but they also know that if they can advertise to somebody and fulfill that on platform, they can see the full meal deal, right? They have the ad, they have the targeting of who that is. It's first party data to them. They see who buys. I mean, incredibly valuable data, and they see all of it, right? And so the platforms are off obviously pushing that harder and harder, because when it's off platform, it's harder to see and they can't capture any part of that revenue. Is that something that you guys are interested in? Is that something that you're aware of? But you know what? I want our customer to be our customer and we want the customer relationship, internally. How do you see that? How do you feel about that emotionally?
Yeah. I think this conversation has changed in the last few years. And so I'll start kind of at the bottom and work my way up to kind of your questions. But it's really that I think today the brand's job is to be there for the consumer, but be agnostic to the channel of purchase. So it used to be we want to own the consumer. And so Amazon is kind of held at an arm's length online.
Mhm.
Same thing with these different shops, or even wholesale or marketplace kind of partners, the WalMarts and Targets and eBay's and so forth. Now I think it's more that we are seeing consumers shop lots of different places. It's not like
Mhm.
because I am a direct to consumer, I am always a direct to consumer. Um, and so as it relates to these shops, then we want to be there. GNC is actively testing on TikTok Shop and actually seen pretty good success over the last couple months. There was a product, a women's stress Vita packs, and kind of like a 30-day supply, have a little packet of like, here are all of the supplements and pills to take. Um, and it went, viral,
Mhm.
and we sold out of all of our inventory in 3 days. Right. And
Wow.
then people were going into stores and looking for it, going onto Amazon and looking for it. So like it does work. And we weren't sure. Uh, even for something like the vitamins and supplements. I think in talking to others, where I'm thinking the best place for, especially for TikTok shop, it's almost like a trial product or a
Mhm.
trial entry into the brand, because the price point is usually $30 or less, right? Single product,
Mhm.
usually free shipping, some kind of heavy discount that TikTok is, helping
It's
to
the new
provide,
Groupon.
right? Yeah, exactly. So it is. It's like single product. How does that an acquisition channel to bring someone into the brand? Uh, and so that's how we're thinking about it. I think Facebook and Instagram shops are a little bit different, but where we haven't seen quite as much adoption there, I think
Mhm.
because consumers are still a little wary on payment information being sent sometimes. And I think a lot of times now consumers are just used to going from Instagram to mobile shop at, for the brand or a Shopify store or something like that. And it feels just as easy without
Mhm.
needing to stay within the closed walled garden.
That's super interesting to hear your perspective on that. On the one hand, you're saying, "Hey, great, where people are, we wanna be." And that makes perfect sense, right? Rather than we have to gather the parade, we'll go to where the parade is and we'll meet everybody. That absolutely makes sense. On the other hand, what I think I'm hearing as well is, hey, it's an entry point to the brand, and those who love us are probably gonna seek us out elsewhere on owned channels. Am I hearing that
Yeah.
correctly, or am I
Yeah.
reading that into you?
No, that's correct. It's kind of like these are interesting ways to break through and be the tip of the spear. But how do we then expand the assortment that someone engages with, or how do we get a continued relationship? And we still want that to be primarily within the brand ecosystem. So whether it's email or SMS or just, shop bundles so that they're coming
Mhm.
in and researching other products. That's how we're thinking about it right now.
That makes an absolute ton of sense. And that means that how you deliver the product and the messaging around the product and that what they get in their actual hands in their home is really critical to telling your brand story and then to opening up. Now, when somebody buys something from you via TikTok shop, what data do you get? Do you get the full meal deal or do you just get send something here?
We get a little, you get the data to fulfill, assuming we're fulfilling it. There's also TikTok fulfillment that you can go
Hmm.
through. So it's not the full first party data that we can ingest and target. However, you can target that audience within the TikTok
I see.
ecosystem,
I
right? So
see.
you
Yep.
can send messages and have that relationship. And it's the same way within Facebook or Instagram. You can brands can have pretty interactive, like Facebook Messenger conversations with consumers. And so it's almost taking a CRM strategy and replicating it within each of these ecosystems now.
Very, very, very cool. Awesome. That fascinating to me. What are you seeing in terms of creative? Are you seeing any major shifts? I mean, obviously, we're in the holiday season right now, so everything's Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Maybe not so much Cyber Monday for you because it's not an electronic product, but maybe you have those as well. And of course, Christmas season is coming and all that stuff. What are some of the creative changes or shifts that you're seeing?
Yeah. I think it's continuing to leverage those authentic voices. So influencers, but not, yes, you have your like really big influencers, but I think actually what I'm seeing it the most efficient is the regular folks who are like you and I, who are talking about how they use this product in their everyday life. And they're showing, the messiness of their
Mhm.
home or the chaos of having kids or pets or, whatever else it is. Um, and that is what resonates because it's like, I see that myself in that person. So I'm going to trust their recommendations. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
uh, I saw the recent study. It is still word of mouth is the strongest driver for purchases in wellness products
Wow.
broadly. Not
Wow.
terribly surprising, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I think what I just talked about, this more authentic person who looks like someone you could be a friend with, starts to fall in that word of mouth category rather than advertising.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I think that is still where we're seeing a lot of success on the creative side. But I think it's also consumers are pretty savvy right now. And so I want, I want you to entertain me as a brand and be interesting. I want to learn something so that I actually believe the claims that you're making. And, I want ultimately that convenience of how to trial and how to get a product at a really low stakes way for me as a consumer.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. It's interesting because as you're VP of e-commerce, which is, but you have 2,300 physical stores. How does that work? How does that fit? I mean, historically, stores that are both bricks and mortar and e-commerce have struggled with that sort of channel conflict potential, right? How does that work for you?
Yeah. It's something that candidly we're figuring out. So GNC, any of us
Everybody is
who
figuring everything out all the
we're all
time.
trying to figure it out. No one has the answers. That's that's the secret in this space. But I think anyone who is in the States, call it in the like 80s and 90s, knows GNC. There is
Mhm.
very, very high brand recognition because they were on like every street corner in every town for a long time or in the malls and all that. However, there's a perception that it is only for the hardcore bodybuilding crowd, right? The bulk up crowd. It's not, the everyday, supplements kind of, or wellness, where wellness is today destination. And so I think what we're trying to do is create really this omni-channel experience where with digital, I think digital, it should be the brand flagship when you come to the
Mhm.
.com site.
Mhm.
It should represent the brand. It should have those fun elements. You can get all the content. You should feel really good about the scientists and the dietitian and nutritionists that we have on staff who are making these recommendations. And what we're hearing is most people are going into a store having an idea of, hey, I've heard that creatine is good for me as a woman and for preserving muscle mass, but I'm not really sure should I get this product versus this
Mhm.
product. And they want to talk to a store associate to make that final recommendation. Or does it dissolve well in water? What is the flavor like? Right. So it's like those nuances that are sometimes hard to pick up on digital. But it should be this again, like symbiotic relationship. And this is where the being kind of purchase agnostic comes in. So it
Mhm.
is not just because I own ecom, I want exclusive ownership of that customer in every transaction that they're going to have. And again, it's stores trying to avoid having someone ever go online or go into subscription. Like I think,
Yeah.
it, but it, I think in a lot of you know legacy retail experiences, it has been like that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it is as much like breaking down internal silos and looking at the holistic view of the consumer and what are the right places to show up as a brand. And it gets complicated. And we are on Amazon. You can purchase some of our products at a Walmart or a Sam's Club. And so again, true stitching the consumer through everything is sometimes harder than it sounds. But what we can do is at least get the .com and the retail stores connected from a data perspective.
And I think that's gotta be key, right? Because then you can look at geos and you can say, "Who do we have as customers here?" And is it are we more successful where we have physical, boots on the ground, even if it is digital sales, right? Because there's something very nice about being able to go to a place that, is a brand that they have a connection to. Because I drive a car electric car and it's hard to find like just the place to go if I have an issue or something like that, right? Because it's not from one of the major brands, and so then you run into that issue, right? But it's nice to have a place to go, which makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Cool. We got to wrap up. I don't want to take too much of your time. Black Friday is calling and you probably have 50,000 emails about it, all that stuff. As you look at subscription retail, are there any hidden keys to success that, you've discovered over the past couple of years and you think, "Oh, wow, I wish I had known that earlier?"
So I've been talking to a lot of marketers, and I think it really is in a lot of ways case by case testing, which is not a great answer probably for your crowd. But I think it is iterating. For example, do you default someone into subscription versus one time purchase directly in the cart? It might work for some products and it might not for others. I think the same idea of can you create a bundle or create, a box of
Mhm.
different samples that someone, subscribes to and then, buys the full price, the full size items afterwards. So I think there's a lot of creative ways to think about subscription. That's not just about how to lock in revenue. I think that's the fun part of it. And also that's the kind of onus on us to keep testing, keep trying new things.
That's super interesting. It resonates a little bit because I see what my wife buys from like Clairol or the Body Shop or something like that. And you see that happening all the time. They'll put these 5 different things and she's like super excited because I got this. And if I bought that separately, it was like twice the amount or something like that. Right. And so she got
Yep.
more than she would have gotten. But then it's an opportunity. Oh, I really like this stuff and stuff, stuff that I would never have used. I'd give it a shot. And actually, that's
Mhm.
really, really good. Let's get that again. Right. So that
Yep.
makes a ton of sense. Cool. Any fatal errors to avoid?
um, I think trying to force fit consumers into one size fits all just doesn't work. And I've seen that in lots of different instances. You know, set very rigid things always have to show up, every 4 weeks. It always has to be thus. Like you will have consumers opting out very, very quickly. Even if you get that first subscription, it's ultimately not good consumer experience. I think that's sometimes what we forget is it looks good on paper because you got that extra purchase, but if that leaves a bad taste in someone's mouth, they're not going to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. That brand relationship can be so fragile. Hey, I mean, you can build it up over years, over years, and you can like put a serious dent in it, if not completely shatter it in just a couple of seconds with a bad experience. Really, really, really challenging. Vivian, I want to thank you so much for taking this time. I really do appreciate it. I love your insights. I love the fact that you're sharing them, and I wish you all the success in this coming holiday season.
Thank you so much. You too.